Hello everyone, and welcome to Simple Therapist. And in this video, we're going to be going over essentially what I do for work. I'm hoping that this video is helpful for people who are either still in college and trying to figure out what they would like to do, or perhaps a social worker who has a few years under their belt and wants to do something different. Whether that is your situation or you're simply interested in this field of work, this video is definitely for you. If you enjoy this video, feel free to leave a like and also leave a comment on what you enjoyed about the video or what you found insightful, and let's get straight into it. Now, in order to clearly articulate what I do for work, it's important to highlight some key things here. I want to quickly go over how the therapeutic levels of care work. You have your outpatient settings and your inpatient settings. Outpatient is very vast. So this would include what most people think in their minds as going to a therapist's office or a virtual telehealth session. It may also include some more intensive levels of care like in-home services, extended day treatments, intensive outpatient. Essentially, outpatient means that you're going to a place in order to receive therapeutic services, to receive treatment, and then you're leaving that place. Whereas with inpatient, the goal is to seek hospitalization with the goal of stabilizing. This is within the hospital, you're essentially there for an extended period within a hospital setting. Inpatient also includes circumstances like being at a residential facility in which you're there for multiple days, perhaps even weeks, long stretches in order to seek intensive care for a psychiatric disorder or circumstance that you may be going through. Now that we've gone through some of those prerequisites, let's go a bit in detail as to what I do. So step one is that I receive a referral from some sort of provider, whether that's a community provider, a hospital, a self-referral from a parent, and the referral gives me all of the necessary information that I need as context in order to go into that intake or that initial session with the family so that I am not blindsided as to specific circumstances that are taking place within the family context. The last thing that I need to happen when going into an intake is seeing this mother figure, referring to them as mom, and finding out that they are adoptive aunt and mom recently passed away or is in treatment for a substance misuse problem. That's why it is always important to look at the referral. Now, the referral is simply context. A lot of people, social workers, will make a predetermined judgment about the client or the family systems strictly based off of what they're reading within the referral. And that's simply not fair. That activates your biases, and so you need to make sure that you're challenging that. With that said, the referral encompasses present problems across the domain. So that's the child domain, the family domain, school, and environment. I'm referring to my job specifically. Members in the household, medications, past psychiatric history, specifically what they want me to work on. What does that community provider find most important as the presenting problem? I then reach out to the family and schedule an intake. Now, the intake, as I mentioned before, is the initial session. So there are a whole host of documents highlighting the expectations of the program, for instance, informing them of their confidentiality, how it works, what it covers and what doesn't. There's also releases of information which allow me to not only speak to the member or person that's documented and divulge specific information that the family allows me to, but that specific party can also reach out to me and divulge information that they've accumulated that is relevant to their treatment. I also provide a little bit of psychoeducation with respect to what a crisis is, an on-call phone number, and how I can be of assistance when I'm not having sessions in the moment. The type of therapy that I engage in is an in-home service. So from there, I engage in child sessions, so whoever the particular targeted client is. I also do parent sessions, which is just as important, and then I do family sessions as a collective throughout the course of treatment. The amount of each, that's up to my discretion, my supervisor's discretion, and who I'm working with. So let's come up with an example. If the primary concern entails the parents responding to their child's gender identity, for instance, with outcasting and avoidance, the bulk of treatment may tailor towards all three, with a slight preference towards family sessions in order to facilitate those discussions in their approach and promote healthy communication. Now, the other types of sessions are just as important, to be clear. The parent sessions need to take place in order for me to have a grasp as to what their perspective is and challenge those things, where they come from, and also provide psychoeducation, practice mentalizing, things of that nature. Now, mentalizing is actually a very cool term that's been within the mental health sphere for a long time, but has sort of made a major surge as of late. To put it super simply, mentalizing is perspective building. It's assisting that person A with putting themselves in the shoes of person B. Now, the child sessions are also important in processing their journey with them, rewiring any thoughts of themselves that are maladaptive, sort of like these CBT-like therapeutic techniques, etc. Now let's get down to the nitty-gritty. what do the interventions look like? Now, the way in which interventions look may depend on a few factors. So for instance, what is the age of the client? What is their level of tolerability with certain interventions? What are their interests? What do their past therapeutic experiences look like? Were they successful? Were they unsuccessful? What are some of the nuances within those experiences? And also the level of rapport built. I won't get into like the grieving process and therapeutic techniques dedicated towards trauma on the first week. That's just not happening. Now, I work with children and adolescents in addition to the family and their parents, etc. Now, when working with the younger demographic, my job is to be creative in the way I introduce, walk through, and recap interventions. For some, the moment in which they hear, okay, today we're going to be working on this, they shut down or become defiant or distracted. Now, for some, certain activities may look nothing more than that, like just having fun, playing some sort of game, some sort of activity. But with certain instructions, introspective questions, or the outcome that's exhibited, it can be absolutely game-changing for the progress of that child. Now, the treatment plan will determine much of the trajectory as to what those interventions look like. Think of the treatment plan as some sort of constitution for a country. Pretty much all interventions should be tailored towards it. Now, the treatment plan may look different depending on the program, but in my case, it generally entails a series of goals and action steps. They are created within the family, so it's a co-constructive approach that our program does. And throughout treatment, we rate progress made within these goals. So we establish them, we do an initial rating, and then within 2 months' time, we rate again. Then within 2 months' time, we rate again to see whether we're making progress, whether we're being stagnant, or whether we're on the decline. Now, with long-term intensive treatment, it is important that the social worker establishes a clinical assessment. Within my program, that will usually take place within the first month or two of treatment. The assessment includes questions pertaining to the family history, school history, medical history, psychiatric history, what diagnoses have been in play or removed, why were they removed in the first place, when did they receive those diagnoses, things like that. This comes in the form of a comprehensive interview both with the parents or the child depending on their age. I will also take careful consideration as to what those early interventions look like and what the child is displaying depending on what is being presented to them, whether it's defined characteristics, hyperactive characteristics, etc. It builds up a case for what diagnosis may be appropriate. Now, given all of those factors, right, the criteria satisfaction in the DSM-5, the comprehensive interviewing, the questionnaires, the testing that was completed, the relevant observations, we're taking all of those components and creating a clinical formulation that describes the diagnosis and the rationale for it. And that's essentially what my job looks like. Of course, there's a lot of intangibles, right? In addition to the therapeutic interventions, facilitating conversations, working on a lot of those skill building for the client and also the parent to mentalize what their child is going through. On a particular day, I may be an advocate for the client and fighting for what is helpful within the school system. So let's say there's a 504 in place, which is a set of accommodations essentially, but the school staff is not exercising it properly or is not respecting what is established. That's where I will come in during like a meeting and try to advocate as best as I can. I'm not a school advocate, to be clear, but I am a social worker and I do what I can. On another day, I may be a case manager. We work with families that come from a whole host of diverse backgrounds, and with those backgrounds come unique challenges. So on a particular day, I may assist the family in transportation or locate a local food bank for them to utilize. Towards the end of treatment, I create a discharge summary, which essentially establishes a summary, a comprehensive summary of what took place during treatment, progress that was made, and then what is the next best appropriate level of care. If they made progress, it'll probably be a step down level, so more traditional outpatient setting. If there are still lingering issues within the family and not so much the targeted client, I may refer some sort of family therapy. If the client didn't make any progress at all, or perhaps you could argue that they got worse, there were more frequent hospitalizations, maybe they had an inpatient stint during treatment, then they may need a more higher level of care in order to further stabilize. And that is pretty much what I do. If you have any questions or would like a follow-up, a part 2, please let me know. But otherwise, hopefully this was helpful. Hopefully this will be a helpful resource in determining whether or not this line of work is for you. But thank you so much and have a good one.